So, folks, we are going to hear a verdict around Breonna Taylor today. And it may even be during the recording of this. Who knows? If anything breaking happens, please say something in the chat because we might not know. So please say something in the chat. But we are going to hear a verdict today. It is likely not going to be good. And what I mean by that is that they are likely going to let these cops off. There has been some stuff on Twitter of people saying they have insider information from the LAPD or similar organizations that is saying that they're going to let the cops who murdered Breonna Taylor off. It's hard to verify any information. And of course, the corporate media has been silent as expected. But here's something we also know. They have declared a state of emergency in Louisville already. And they're sending cops in, they're sending guards in. So here's what's happening so far. Louisville mayor declares state of emergency as downtown access is cut off. Louisville officials say they don't know when a decision from the attorney general is coming in regards to Breonna Taylor, but the city is restricting downtown access and taking other actions. So they're already declaring a state of emergency. They're already shutting it down. And they're saying this is, quote, due to the potential for civil unrest. So chances are pretty good. Chances are pretty high based on everything that's been floating around the blogosphere, all of the potentially leaked information that's out there. I say potentially because I personally have not been able to verify anything with 100% accuracy. These are just people on Twitter. But it looks like they're likely going to get off. I heard that the family was offered a pretty sizable settlement, and they're probably going to get off without charge. My prediction, based on these preemptive measures taken by Louisville, I have a feeling, they're going to get off without charge, just like pretty much 99% of officer-involved murders. So, Chris, what do you think? Do you predict something different?
No, I predict the same. This is just the same old in this country. There's a long history, a long bloody history of terror against people of color. And what we're seeing right now is the Black working class, along with really an intersectional movement of people, all races, all genders, all identities out in the streets fighting against, the racism, the systemic racism that's in this country. And of course, it's being demonized. It's being demonized by a lot of mainstream voices on the right, and also on the liberal wing, especially the corporate liberal wing of the Democratic Party. And I think everybody just has to get on the streets. I think I'm the only congressional candidate who has been out to the BLM protests in Burlington. We protested close by here at the Vermont Law School months ago when the state-sanctioned murder of George Floyd happened. We've been out on the streets and we've been saying, and we're not looting, there's no violence, there's nothing like that going on. We're simply saying justice, we want justice. And that's what should be had.
That's been my experience too, protesting. It has been 100% peaceful. And I was at the protest in Beverly Hills that, there was some violence that happened there. And I've said it before on this show. I'll say it again. It was 100% peaceful. Like it felt like a folk festival, not even just a music festival, Chris, like an actual folk festival, like the most peaceful of the peaceful. Then all of a sudden the cops showed up.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and again, I talked about this the day after it happened, but I was just walking around. It was an entirely peaceful protest. They had all these cars left there, all these police cars just left unattended, intentionally hoping somebody would do something. And I even saw people, I saw some people threw stuff at the cop cars and other people said, don't do that, stop doing that. They stopped the people from doing that because they were like, look, that's what they want. They want to crack our heads. They want us to do something to this car so they can start cracking our heads. Don't do it. Then all of a sudden, there was this random cop car on fire. And it looked, there's no way, like this idea that it randomly happened is just so, because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's this cop car, the windows were busted out, it was spray painted, and it was just on fire. Mm-hmm. And no one knew where it came from. No one, but then all of a sudden the cops just start cracking heads, and that's what happened.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they're claiming that protesters did that, but I don't know how from my perspective. I don't know how or where that could have happened from my perspective as someone who was marching there. Could I see the entirety of everything that was going on? Well, of course not. That's physically impossible. But it's just all these randomly placed cop cars were there. And then all of a sudden, there's this one. It's very bizarre to say the very least. And when you see every single person in every single city that has the same story, there was no violence until the cops showed up. Gee, I'm finding a common thread here.
Yeah, and you know more than anyone else, the ruling class and its lackeys have always had agent provocateurs. There's always been people embedded in protests to get them violent, to derail them, so that the state can crack down and change public opinion. Because, for example, most people are, yes, of course, we want justice. Most people have dignity and say, yeah, of course, there should be just some level of justice. But of course, when you have provocateurs going out there, burning, looting, who knows what's going on? Who knows who's behind them? But from history, we know full well, not only in this country, all over. 1953 in Iran, the overthrow of Mossadegh. It was the CIA and MI6-backed lackeys that were out there, protesting, demonstrating, beating people up, wearing the clothes of the Iranian Communist Party, the Tudeh party. And then, of course, everyone blamed them after. And they didn't know that actually was the CIA and MI6 goons that were out there who were paid for. So a lot of the stuff, we went to a demonstration, and in the distance, we heard semi-automatic gunfire, and people were very unnerved by the whole thing. They said, no, we're not doing this, and because it's a rural area. So people, were out there protesting. People drove by fast, yelling slogans and things like that. We were peaceful, just holding up signs, being respectful to everybody around. I haven't seen any violence in any of the demonstrations I've been in. None. I've seen a lot of attempted violence or intimidation from other people. Who knows who they are? But I haven't seen anything from local protesters. No way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just been the same story. And here you have Louisville. They already got it on lockdown because chances are there's going to be a verdict that a lot of people are going to be very, very unhappy with. There's also speculation out there that the officers themselves, the officers who murdered Breonna Taylor, that they've been writing to their colleagues, expressing joy, basically, like they know what's coming. So yeah, I mean, again, we're not going to know for sure probably until the end of this show. If anything's breaking, please say something in the chat because, we're not going to see it. But chances are the murderers who murdered Breonna Taylor are going to get off without charge. That's likely what's going to happen. And this is a systemic thing. This is how they always do it. Usually what they do is they just draw the court process out so long so that it falls out of the public eye before they give a verdict. And we have so many police murders where police are murdering people that there's a new one every week. And they want to numb the society to it. I mean, I had an instance happen to me on Instagram where I posted a screenshot of a tweet I made about Anthony McClain, who was murdered in my neighborhood in Pasadena. And somebody was defending the cops. They were defending the cops, and they were defending a different shooting that happened earlier that week. They didn't know. There's so many of them. They don't even know. They don't even know which cops' boots they're licking at this point. They don't even know which boots they're licking. They don't even know which mental gymnastics they're giving it for. They have to keep the propaganda in their head. Oh, wait, I accidentally gave the propaganda for Elijah instead of Anthony. Mm-hmm. Oops.
Yep.
It's unreal.
It really is. It really is. And I think that unless you have broad systemic change, unless you really have a popular mobilization in this country to change the system, we're not going to see anything different.
Oh, yeah. You can't. Whenever people say police reform, I'm like, no. Way too little, way too late. No. You can't. No. And when you think about it, the fact that the job itself exists is absolutely lunacy. Like a police officer as we know it. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any law and order in a society, but a police officer, as we know it's an absolutely ridiculous job for anyone to have. It's that they have this kind of overarching authority. They receive incredibly poor training. They have a license to kill. A lot of them suffer from PTSD that goes unchecked. A lot of them are KKK members. That goes unchecked because the screening process is incredibly poor. Why is the same person who might pull you over for a busted taillight the same person who might respond to a live shooter situation? That makes zero sense. It's absolutely insane. It's not safe for anybody involved, literally anybody. We should completely revisit and reinvent what it means to have law enforcement in our lives and acknowledge the fact that a police officer as we know it shouldn't exist.
I agree. And actually, I talk to a lot of people out here. I live in a rural area. We don't even have a police presence in my town.
There's moving. No
police station. There's nothing. And
send me your zip code. I'm moving there.
Whenever we see a police car, everybody asks questions. What's going on? Why are they here? We don't want them here. Get out. This kind of stuff.
I like your community already, man.
It's I'm telling you, it's wonderful. And
you live on a farm. Do you have a guest house? I'm moving.
Absolutely, come on over.
Awesome. Yes.
We have justices of the peace, and a lot of people have the conversation to say, why do we even need them? Why are we paying for them? What good do they serve? They really don't. They don't do anything. And everybody has jokes about the local police in the town over. But I think one of the big things that I can talk to people, rural people in Burlington or Montpelier, and I can say, look, why do police have to have military grade equipment? What's the fear?
Kidding?
What's happening? And especially here we can have jokes. We can say the cow got loose from the neighbor farm, and it's like running loose, and somehow the police have to use the M16. Like what the hell does that have anything to do with it? Why do they need that? Why do they need tanks? Why do they need, in one of the towns just about 25 minutes away, they have a Stingray. I guess it's this device they put on top of the police car, the roof, and it can take all of the cell. It like basically acts as a cell tower, and it can take all the messages and pings that are coming in at it, and it basically cloaks itself to do intelligence gathering. And I said, why? What are they gathering? Can you bring some eggs from the chicken coop? Or, we don't even have service up here for cell phones. I don't even understand why they have this stuff. But for sure, number one, you demilitarize the police. Stop the training in Israel and things like that. Why are police going to get trained in Israel and counter terrorism? What terrorism do we have here? The only terrorism I see is from the right wing. How people forget so quickly. Timothy McVeigh.
Well,
what the hell?
When we have domestic terrorism, I guess in police training, they're trained to take them to Burger King.
Exactly.
I guess they're trained at like what they did with Dylan Roof. They took him to Burger King after he killed 9 people. Now, in fairness, Chris, to be totally fair here, I mean, I do think that if you got to rescue a cow, a tank could come in handy. I mean, because you could give the cow a ride, you just kind of
be a roadblock.
Yeah, just kind of scoop the cow up with the thing, and then like give the cow a ride back to the pasture and be like, here you go, buddy, roam around.
I'm telling you, it's a lot of people agree, even across the political spectrum. Like when you really talk to people around here, and you said, and of course, I always preface it by saying, police officers, probably most of them are decent human beings, good family people. It's the uniform I have a problem with. It's the authority I have a problem with. It's the badge and the gun and all this stuff. Why? Why can't we have more counselors, more therapists, more justice of the peace, more community control over how we do things? And why can't the police be under community control? What's wrong with that? I always say, everybody says democracy, democracy. Well, that's democratic. The police are the people's authority, right? The police, exactly. We can have oversight.
We need to have community oversight. I don't subscribe to the whole they're good people, because to me, that's just, you're just playing into a straw man. That's the way I see it. The whole just a couple bad apples. First of all, no, it's a systemic problem. To address I know that's not what you're saying. I'm just saying to me, it's like taking, if we had an E. coli outbreak, taking one shred of lettuce and be like, this shred's fine, I'm going to eat it. Like, that's not the point. That's not the point. It's a systemic problem, and you need to treat it as such. And just going one individual at a time, that doesn't address the systemic problem. Because a lot of cops, if they do go into the force with good intentions, they get weeded out really quick.
I agree with you.
I mean, I've talked to some former cops before. I mean, I've met them, and I remember, I'll never forget it. I had this long conversation with this guy. He used to be a cop. He had to leave, and because he had integrity as a human being. And I remember, and this was years ago when I was a little more idealistic than I am now. I mean, I was in my early 20s, and I said, man, I just think that there are some cops that are like you or were like you, and they had good intentions. But if I had to take a guess, I'd say for every one cop like you, there's 3 who aren't. And he looked at me and he said, "You're being way too fucking generous."
See, there you go.
Said, he's trying 9 out of 10. And even that's being a little too, and I'm like, all right, man. All right. And I never forgot that. And that was when I always I'm like, no, if you want to we have to talk about a systemic problem like a systemic problem.
I agree with you. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
So everybody brace yourselves. The people who murdered Breonna Taylor, they're probably going to be let off because this is a systemic disease.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make